Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going on an adventure. Yeah, an adventure to Priest Creek Mobile Home Park.
Okay.
We'll be using maps, ecological reports, and even city planning documents to explore its plants and animal life.
Interesting.
Now, you might think a mobile home park is a strange place to look for biodiversity.
Right.
But trust me,
Okay.
this is going to be exciting.
I'm ready.
We're going to uncover at-risk ecosystems.
Wow.
And even touch on a creature with a fascinating and slightly mysterious reputation.
A creature with a mysterious reputation.
That's right.
I'm intrigued. What's so fascinating about this deep dive?
Well, I think it reveals how much biodiversity can exist in places we just don't think about, places we often overlook.
I see. Okay, so where do we start?
First, can you paint a picture of Priest Creek Mobile Home Park for our listener? What's the setting like?
Okay, well, imagine a typical mobile home park, nestled in the heart of British Columbia's Okanagan Valley. But here's the thing. Instead of just concrete and lawns, this one's got something special.
What's that?
Priest Creek.
Oh, a creek.
Yeah, it runs right through it.
Wow.
And it's this creek that creates what we call riparian zones.
Riparian zone.
Yeah, those crucial areas where the land meets the water.
Oh, I see. So it's not just your average mobile home park then.
Right.
Our sources highlight some pretty significant ecological value there.
Oh, absolutely. These documents, specifically the Sensitive Ecosystem Inventories, we call them SEIs for short,
Okay.
they reveal that Priest Creek Mobile Home Park falls within a Natural Environment Development Permit area.
What does that mean?
Well, this designation,
Okay.
put in place by the city of Kelowna, is a signal
Uh-huh.
that this area is ecologically significant.
So it's a red flag.
It is. It's a red flag that any development there needs to be approached very carefully.
That makes a lot of sense. So we've got this mobile home park sitting right in the middle of a sensitive ecological zone. What kind of plants and animals are actually living there?
Well, let's start with the plants.
Okay.
The SCI reports reveal a mix of trees and shrubs.
Okay.
That might sound familiar to you.
All right.
Black Cottonwood, Douglas fir, Douglas maple, Common Snowberry. You'll also find Trembling Aspen,
Okay.
and even good old Kentucky Bluegrass.
Those sound like plants you could find just about anywhere. What makes them special in this context?
Well, it's how these, seemingly ordinary plants, how they come together to form these unique ecological communities. Think of it as a plant neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
Where each species plays a specific role
Yes.
in the overall health and function of the area.
And it turns out these plant neighborhoods at Priest Creek Mobile Home Park are pretty special.
Right.
Our sources indicate they're classified as red by the BC Conservation Data Center.
That's right. A red classification means these plant communities are considered at risk.
At risk, okay.
They're facing threats,
Like what?
from habitat loss
Okay.
to invasive species, and this makes their presence at Priest Creek even more significant.
So we've got these at-risk plant communities thriving right next to mobile homes.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Our reports suggest that these communities are not just locally rare, they're actually quite rare on a global and provincial scale as well.
Absolutely. They've got a global and provincial rank of S1, S2,
Okay.
which underscores the importance of protecting them. This means that even though these plants might seem commonplace,
Yeah.
they're actually part of a much larger ecological story
Right.
that extends far beyond Priest Creek Mobile Home Park.
It really highlights how much we still have to learn about the biodiversity in our own backyards.
It does indeed. We often associate biodiversity with far-off rainforests or pristine wilderness areas, but the reality is it exists all around us,
It does.
even in places we might least expect it.
Okay, so we've got these incredible plant communities. What about the animals? You mentioned a creature with a mysterious reputation earlier.
Ah, yes. Let's talk about the American badger. Now, this is where it gets really interesting,
Okay.
according to our sources.
Right.
Specifically, the COSEWIC assessment and the Species at Risk Act, or SARA.
Okay.
The American badger is listed as endangered in Canada.
Endangered. Wow, that's a pretty serious designation. Does that mean they're actually living at the mobile home park?
Well, that's the mystery. We know that badgers inhabit the Okanagan Valley region,
Okay.
but we don't have confirmation
Okay.
that they're specifically living at Priest Creek Mobile Home Park.
So how do we know they could be there?
Well, our reports tell us
Yeah.
a lot about the badger's habitat preferences. They favor areas where grasslands meet agricultural land
Okay.
and are also known to inhabit disturbed mid-elevation forests with
Uh-huh.
certain types of soil.
Wait.
So if you think back to the location of Priest Creek and the types of plants we talked about,
Yeah.
it's possible the property has suitable habitat.
It's like a puzzle, isn't it?
Yeah.
We have all these pieces of information about the badger's habitat needs,
Mm-hmm.
and now we're trying to see if those pieces fit into the landscape of Priest Creek.
That's a great analogy. It really captures the detective work
It does.
that goes into understanding how species interact with their environment.
I'm hooked. I need to know more about this badger situation.
Yeah.
But first, our notes mention something else interesting. An unmapped spring on the property.
Right. It's not included on any official maps,
Oh, wow.
but the notes mention a spring
Okay.
feeding a riparian zone on the property.
For those of us who aren't biologists, can you explain what a riparian zone is and why this spring is such a big deal?
All right. Imagine a stream flowing through a forest.
Okay.
The riparian zone is that lush green area
Mm-hmm.
along the banks of the stream
Okay.
where the land transitions into the water. It's a vibrant ecosystem that's incredibly important for biodiversity.
So it's like a lifeline for all sorts of plants and animals.
Exactly. Riparian zones provide essential habitat.
Uh-huh.
They help filter pollutants from the water
Okay.
and prevent erosion.
Right.
The presence of a spring feeding into this zone is significant.
Oh, so.
It provides a consistent source of water,
Oh, I see.
especially in a semi-arid region
Mm-hmm.
like the Okanagan Valley.
Wow, that makes sense. It creates this sort of micro-oasis within the larger ecosystem.
Precisely. And it's these kind of hidden features
Yeah.
that often contribute the most to biodiversity in seemingly ordinary places.
So we've got this incredible mix of at-risk plant communities,
Mhm.
the potential for an endangered species, and this hidden spring, all tucked away in Priest Creek Mobile Home Park.
Mm.
It's amazing to think about how much is happening right under our noses.
It is truly remarkable.
It really is.
And it makes you wonder
Yeah.
what other hidden ecological treasures
Right.
are out there
Yeah.
just waiting to be discovered.
I think we're just scratching the surface.
I think so too.
But we'll delve into those hidden treasures a little later.
Okay.
For now, we need to shift our focus
All right.
and look at Priest Creek Mobile Home Park in a broader context.
It's a good point. We need to consider how this unique micro-ecosystem
Yeah.
fits into the larger picture
Right.
of ecological change
Sure.
happening in the central Okanagan.
Great. Let's do that.
Hmm.
Okay, so we've uncovered all this incredible biodiversity at Priest Creek Mobile Home Park. But you mentioned we need to look at it in the context of broader ecological changes happening in the Okanagan. What's the bigger picture here?
Yeah, you're right. It's not just about this one location. We need to zoom out a bit.
Okay.
Our sources, particularly the 2021 Central Okanagan SEI Update Technical Report,
Right.
well, they paint a somewhat concerning picture.
Concerning how so?
The report documents significant losses in several sensitive ecosystem categories.
Losses? What kind of losses are we talking about?
Well, two categories really stand out:
Okay.
grassland and coniferous woodland ecosystems.
Okay.
Both are experiencing the most significant declines in the region. And here's what's particularly relevant to our deep dive.
Okay.
These are the very ecosystems that the American badger depends on.
Oh, wow. So even if badgers aren't currently living at Priest Creek Mobile Home Park, these losses could impact their ability to, move
Yeah.
through the region.
Exactly. It's all about connectivity.
Right.
These losses fragment the landscape,
Okay.
making it much more difficult for wildlife to move,
Mm-hmm.
find food and mates, and ultimately survive.
So it's harder for them to get around.
It is. The report uses the term perforated landscape.
Perforated.
Yeah, to describe this fragmentation. Imagine a piece of fabric
Okay. Yeah.
with more and more holes poked in it.
Uh-huh.
Eventually, it just can't function as a whole.
That's a powerful image.
Mm.
And we connect this back to Priest Creek Mobile Home Park. It makes those pockets of grassland and woodland even more crucial for the badger.
Absolutely. They become like little islands. These seemingly small areas become even more important.
Yeah.
When the surrounding landscape is fragmented, they act like, stepping stones,
Stepping stones. Okay.
connecting larger patches of habitat,
Okay.
allowing species to move a bit more freely.
Okay, so we've got this image of a fragmented landscape. What's causing this?
Yeah.
Is this like a natural process or is something else going on?
Well, the report points to human activity as the main driver.
Okay.
Residential development is a major factor,
Okay.
accounting for about 40% of the mapped disturbances.
Wow.
Agricultural expansion is the other big one, contributing around 30%.
So essentially, as our footprint grows, these sensitive ecosystems are getting squeezed out. What does that actually look like on the ground?
Imagine a sprawling grassland, teeming with wildflowers, buzzing with insects.
Right.
Now picture that same area being transformed into rows of houses or vineyards.
Oh, wow.
That's essentially what's happening in many parts of the Okanagan
Hmm.
as these natural areas disappear.
Yeah. So do the species that depend on them.
It's a sobering thought. But getting back to our deep dive, does this mean Priest Creek Mobile Home Park is doomed?
Well, not necessarily.
Okay,
While the report paints a challenging picture, it also offers some hope.
well, that's good.
It emphasizes the importance of small, fragmented areas like Priest Creek, highlighting their role in supporting biodiversity in increasingly developed landscapes.
So these pockets of nature, even in seemingly ordinary places like a mobile home park, can act as refuges for species.
Exactly. They offer a lifeline. But there's a catch.
What's the catch?
These fragments need to be protected
Okay, yeah.
and managed effectively to ensure they can continue to provide those benefits.
Right, and that's where the potential for development at Priest Creek Mobile Home Park comes into play, right?
That's right. It's a delicate balance.
It is. We've explored the incredible ecological value of this site, but we haven't yet addressed the potential impacts of development. I know our listeners submitted some city planning documents relating to this.
So what are those impacts? And more importantly, can they be mitigated?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's a complex one
Yeah.
that we'll need to unpack carefully.
Okay.
But let's start by acknowledging that any development has the potential to impact the environment.
Of course.
But the key is to minimize those impacts.
Okay.
And if possible, find ways to actually enhance the ecological value of the site.
I like that. So it's not just about avoiding damage.
Right.
It's about actively looking for ways to improve things.
Precisely.
Okay.
And that requires, a shift in thinking.
Mhm.
Instead of viewing development and conservation as opposing forces, we need to find ways to integrate them.
To work together.
Yes, working with nature rather than against it.
I'm sensing a but coming.
Well, there is a but.
Yeah.
It's easier said than done.
Right.
It requires careful planning, collaboration,
Okay.
and a willingness to make tough decisions.
I can see that.
And that's where our deep dive gets really interesting, I think.
Yeah.
We have these city planning documents
Yes.
that offer insights into how development at Priest Creek might unfold.
Perfect. We can use those documents as a roadmap
Exactly.
to explore those specific challenges and opportunities that come with trying to balance, human needs with the preservation of this valuable ecosystem.
Sounds like a plan.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been exploring the amazing ecosystem at Priest Creek Mobile Home Park.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. We've uncovered a hidden world of at-risk plant communities, the potential for an endangered species, and even a secret spring.
A lot going on there.
There is. But now it's time to tackle the big question.
Right.
What does the future hold for this special place?
That's where things get really interesting, I think. We have this unique opportunity
Yeah.
to see how development can coexist with and even enhance a valuable ecosystem. Our listener has provided some city planning documents,
Oh,
specifically APC2 hydrogeotrenew.pdf and appgeotector3new.pdf.
That's, I think, give us a roadmap
Oh.
for exploring this challenge.
So these documents aren't just about building houses.
No,
They're about finding ways to protect the environment, too.
exactly. They highlight the importance of what we call mitigation measures.
Mitigation measures.
Yeah. These are specific actions taken to minimize the negative impacts of development on the environment.
Okay, I'm all for minimizing negative impacts. What kind of measures are we talking about here?
Well, the documents emphasize the need for thorough hydrogeological and geotechnical assessments
Okay.
before any construction begins. It's like getting a full checkup
Right.
for the land before any work is done.
Makes sense. What do those assessments actually tell us?
They help us understand the underlying geology
Okay.
and hydrology of the site. For example, they'll pinpoint the exact location of that unmapped spring we talked about,
Oh, right.
its flow rate, and how it connects to the surrounding water system.
So it's like a detective investigation.
to uncover all the secrets of the land before we make any changes.
That's a great way to put it.
I like it.
And this information is crucial
Yeah.
because it allows developers to design the project in a way that minimizes those impacts
Right.
on sensitive features like the spring and the riparian zones.
Okay, so we've got these assessments. What happens next? How do we actually protect those sensitive areas?
That's where the concept of buffer zones comes in.
Buffer zones.
These documents and sound environmental practice in general recommend establishing buffer zones around sensitive ecological features. Imagine drawing a protective circle around the spring and the riparian areas. No development is allowed within that circle.
So it's like creating a safe space for nature.
Exactly.
Right in the middle of the development.
Right. These buffer zones act as a kind of insurance policy, helping to preserve the ecological integrity of the site, even as development occurs around it.
I like that idea. But how big do these buffer zones need to be? Is there a standard size?
There's no one-size-fits-all answer, unfortunately. The ideal buffer width depends on several factors, including the sensitivity of the feature being protected, the slope of the land and the type of soil. These reports recommend a range of buffer widths, but the key is to take a site-specific approach.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Using the data from those assessments to determine the most effective size for each area.
So it's about using science and expert knowledge to tailor those buffers to the specific needs of the ecosystem.
Exactly. It's not just about drawing arbitrary lines on a map. It's about using the best available information to make smart decisions that will actually protect those features.
Okay, so we've got assessments, buffer zones. Anything else these city planning documents highlight for protecting Priest Creek Mobile Home Park?
Yes. There's another important piece of the puzzle. Erosion control. Anytime you have construction activities, there's a risk of soil erosion, which can negatively impact water quality and habitat. The documents call for specific measures to prevent erosion.
Like what?
Like using sediment fencing and planting native vegetation to stabilize slopes.
So it's not just about what's happening in the buffer zones. It's about managing that entire construction process to minimize impacts.
Absolutely. It's a holistic approach, thinking about how every aspect of the development might affect the surrounding environment.
That's great.
And these reports also emphasize the importance of ongoing monitoring. Yeah, it's not enough to just put these measures in place and walk away. We need to track how they're performing over time. Collect data and make adjustments.
So like a constant feedback loop.
Exactly. Always checking in, making sure things are on track. And being willing to adapt if they're not.
That makes a lot of sense.
That's what we call adaptive management. And it's a crucial part of ensuring that development is truly sustainable.
Sustainable development. I like that.
And it's not just the responsibility of the developers. Ideally, this process would involve the community as well.
Oh, that's a good point. What role can the residents of Priest Creek Mobile Home Park play in all of this?
Well, imagine residents being actively involved in monitoring the health of the ecosystem. Collecting data on plant and animal populations, even participating in restoration efforts. You know, this transforms the community from passive observers to active stewards of the environment.
That's a powerful vision. It's turning Priest Creek Mobile Home Park into a living laboratory almost, where people are learning about and caring for the ecosystem right in their own backyard.
Exactly. And it fosters a deeper connection between people and nature, which is essential for long-term sustainability.